introduce myself.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. My name's Jerry McDonald. I live in kind of central East Texas. There's a lot of stuff going on I want to talk about. But before I do, just very briefly tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm just a truck driver these days. I haul steel around to build roads with, stuff like that. I wasn't always a truck driver, though. In a former life, I was a military intelligence guy in the Army, and I did intelligence analysis work in lots of different areas around the world, for a long time. Had a very high security clearance, all that kind of crap, yada yada. I only say that to give you kind of an idea of where my perspective is coming from with regards to some of the things going on in our country right now. What I'm focusing on right now is this Jade Helm situation from a Texan's perspective. And there are many other Texans that might have different opinions than me, but this is where I'm coming from, okay? I get up every morning to go to work, usually pretty early, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And I usually spend about an hour sitting there, getting my infusion of caffeine and trying to wake up and come back to life, and get ready for my day. So I go out the door with a clear head. I'm driving an 18-wheeler, running down the road at 80,000 pounds, so I definitely want to be alert when I get out there amongst you folks on the road. Well, while I'm sitting there drinking my coffee in the morning, I get on, Drudge Report and other news aggregate sites and things like this, because I don't trust much of anything that I see on television news. As a matter of fact, I don't even have satellite TV or cable TV or anything. I do get my news mostly from the internet. I try to be very careful of the sites that I look at. Any stories that I do get interested in and go looking into, I try to verify the information I'm getting through other sources as well, multiple sources, so that I'm not just, sitting here believing, what some whack job website's saying or whatever. I try to go verify it through other sources, right? Makes sense? Well, when it comes to this Jade Helm situation, it's got a lot of people concerned, okay? We're not all a bunch of, extreme right-wing, flag-waving, crazies down here in Texas. I mean, we're people just like you, no matter where you're from. I mean, we want the same things. We want, peace in our lives and harmony in our lives. We want to provide a decent life for ourselves and our family and hang out with our friends, and do all that kind of stuff. But I'm not coming at this from a perspective of a crazy, I don't think, but I know a little something. I'm a student of history for a long time. I've been always fascinated with history, ancient history, human history, world history, name it, American history, Texas history. A lot of people have a perspective out there, to include the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, that, they need to come to our aid here in Texas, because the United States appears to be pulling something down here with these Jade Helm exercises here and other places throughout the Southwest. And I'm not too quick to jump on that little bandwagon right there, because I'm not too quick to trust others. Well, when it comes to this Jade Helm situation, there's some people in Texas that are like, well, you know what, if the U.S. government wants to try to clamp down on us with tyranny, then, take whatever help comes your way, even if that be the Russians or whatever. I'm not too quick to agree with that. I'm going to tell you something. My ancestors fought for Texas. And just a quick nutshell lesson about that little situation. Texas was not annexed and taken away from Mexico by the United States. Let's dispel that little rumor right quick, because apparently even the Russians seem to think that. That's not true. You need to go back and study your history. My family, my ancestors, and the family and ancestors of many others in this state and elsewhere came to Texas to prosper. there were land grants being given out by the then dictator of Mexico, who fancied himself another Napoleon-type emperor, by the name of Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, okay? He offered land grants to people of European descent in the United States to come here and try to make something out of this place. Because really, the population of Texas back then consisted basically of, working people, farmers and whatnot from Mexico, and some Native American tribes that, the Mexican army had some fights with and deemed them to be hostiles or whatever. And they were just having trouble getting Texas kind of under control because it was a wild place, and he wanted to get it under control. And the way he figured on doing that was by bringing in some settlers, most of whom were white, but they were people who already had plantations and farms and, ranches and businesses and stuff like that in the continental United States that we had at the time. So he offered them land grants to come here and basically bring in industry and agriculture and, make something out of the place, make money primarily. So these people did. They came here, lots of different people from different places, mostly from places like Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, places like that. They came in here. They got their land grant, however much that was, depending on their contribution or whatever. It might have been 50 acres, might have been 500 acres, whatever. But they came in. It was a good deal to them. And they signed a contract with the government under Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. And when they did, by and by, to make a long story short, he started wanting more. As they started building Texas up agriculturally, economically, the commerce, the industry, and all this kind of stuff, as they started building it up, he saw that the original agreement that he made with them was no longer satisfactory because he wasn't getting the tax revenue he wanted to get. So he started gradually increasing the taxes. Now, when they came here, they had to swear allegiance to Mexico and swear to be loyal Mexican citizens and all that kind of stuff, but they did so under the agreement of a particular type of tax. Well, he started changing the rules of the game, basically breaching the contract. Well, they put up with this for a while. For a while, they went along with it. After all, they'd already come here and invested everything they had in the place, and this was now their home, and they were all in. So they put up with a lot of stuff off of this guy. Well, he was building up his garrisons in Texas, okay, of military. He was beefing up his military presence, and he was becoming more and more oppressive as time went by. Well, till eventually these people had enough, just like the people in the American Revolution did. They're like, wow, we just traded, one, Lord God, King Bufu and King George, for another one in Santa Anna. Okay, we just traded one dictator for another. We beat that one. Now we've come down here, what? We got another one to deal with here, okay? They had honored their agreement. They made him lots and lots of money. They made him a very wealthy man off the tax revenue he was getting. But power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and he wanted more. So he started beefing up the military because he knew all these people were armed, They're typical Americans back in that day, They had to defend their land against any kind of, threat that might come along or whatever. So then he goes into this phase of sending his military around to disarm all these citizens of Texas. No. That was the final straw right there, just like it was prior to the American Revolution. The British tried to do the same thing. That's the thing that started the revolution. And it started a revolution down here in Texas too, okay? And you know the rest of the story. The Texans fought him. They were slaughtered at first, but they rallied back and came back and they defeated him. And he, like a coward, tried to escape wearing peasant's clothing back into Mexico, and they caught him, and they actually let him go, okay? But Texans won Texas independence. The United States would not intervene in that war because they didn't want another war with Mexico or major conflict with Mexico or whatever. They didn't come to our aid. Individuals from states within the United States, however, understood our cause and felt a certain kind of brotherhood with us, and so they came down to help out, okay? Lots of them died here. And by the way, let me mention also, a lot of Mexicans died fighting Santa Anna in the war for Texas independence as well. That cannot be downplayed. There was a lot of Mexican folks that died in the Alamo and died at Goliad and died in the Battle of San Jacinto where we finally defeated him. Okay? So, I don't have anything against Mexican folks. Love Mexican folks. Particularly love their food. They're just as at home here in my book as I am of Scottish and Sicilian descent. Okay? I don't consider myself Scottish. I don't consider myself Sicilian. I consider myself a Texan first and an American. Now, some of you might have a problem with that, but that's because you don't understand where I'm coming from. Let me explain to you where I'm coming from. I'm a 9th generation Texan. I'm something like a 10th or 11th generation American. My family that came here from Scotland on my dad's side landed in Virginia and fought in the Revolution and the whole 9 yards, okay? We've contributed just as much to the United States of America as we ever did to Texas. But this was where we ultimately wound up settling prior to the Texas War for Independence. We've been here a long time. I have a feeling, based on some of the information that I've been seeing in the news, okay, from different sites and everything, that the reason there's such a high concentration of special operations troops, of which I was affiliated with once, by the way. I know how they operate. I know a lot about it. I have a feeling that what's going on here, possibly, this is one possibility, and there are other reports out here to back this up with some pretty compelling supporting evidence. Our borders have been left wide open. We've got special operations troops roaming around all over Texas, and quite frankly, what amounts to an unconstitutional and illegal exercise, by the way. We've got NATO-marked vehicles moving around all over Texas and a whole lot of other states around the Union, okay? That is a violation of our law. This president, just like presidents before him, to include the Bushes, let me say for the record here, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm an American, and I'm a Texan. I believe in liberty and justice for all, okay? I am not a racist, even though you'll see this, this racist rebel flag on my head. It's basically just hold back the sweat. First of all, that's not what that flag is, by the way. It's basically telling the United States of America, we're not taking your tyranny no more. We're Xing it out and going back to the 13 stars that started this country and the principles they were founded on. So get that through your heads. It's not a racist flag. I'm tired of people saying that. But what I'm suspecting right now, back on point, I tend to wander sometimes. What I'm suspecting right now is that what's going on in this country, and in this state in particular, in places like Utah, the other places involved in Jade, Helm 15, it's come to my attention that there are some people out there that believe that this area, this southwestern area of the United States, there are these stories out here about how this used to be a place called Aztlan or something like that, some kind of a ancient Mexican province that the Aztecs occupied or something like that. I don't know where that story came from. People that are purporting that story seriously need to reevaluate their knowledge of history. That, first of all, that's a complete fantasy. There never was a place called Aztlan, okay? Now, it is true that much of the American Southwest and West, and even some of the Northwest, was at one time territory that was owned and claimed by Mexico. But things like that have changed all over the world for all kinds of different reasons. The United States did not steal that from Mexico. They purchased it from Mexico, okay? Now, I'm not sitting here trying to defend politicians or anything like that, but that's a fact, okay? But you got a lot of people out here spreading a whole bunch of disinformation and just outright lies about what's going on with this. But this Obama character here, that, oh my God, it would take a whole series of videos on the things I found out about this guy that I've verified, by the way. But this guy, I don't know what he's planning to do here, but this theory that I'm talking about, it's not my theory, but someone else, other people have proposed indicates that what this guy and his handlers, might be pulling off in order to bust up this superpower that we live in. I guess they plan, according to the theory, to give these areas back to Mexico. That's the theory anyway. Again, not my theory, but it's interesting because it would make a lot of other things make sense, such as the borders being, for all intents and purposes, abandoned, the door being left wide open, and all these folks that aren't just Mexicans, by the way, the largest majority of them coming across our border illegally are actually Chinese. It's pretty interesting. There are a lot of Arab types coming across the border, Muslims. It's very interesting. I don't know if that's really what's going on or not, but if it is, that's a bit of a problem. It's a huge problem because it's a problem that we don't need. We have enough of our own. I don't know what any of you think about this out there, but before just randomly making a comment, I would ask that you at least go research this, on your own. And if you do decide to make comments, your opinion's your opinion, but I would hope that you would put forth an informed opinion at least, because there are a lot of indicators that is a good possibility, that in order to internationalize things and delete this superpower as we are today, a good way to do that would be to break it up into smaller regions. Okay. There are many different other things going on, and I'll address those in other videos as I get a chance to when I'm not working my ass off. But I want to know what people think about this. If you watch this video and you listen to what I'm saying, go ahead, put your opinion on there. Call me a whack job if you want to, but I prefer you didn't. Just, discuss, without all the name calling and crazy shit. But go look into this, because if this is going on, we're being sold down the river, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. I know there are a lot of other Texans out here that feel the way I do. We're very loyal Americans. We're very loyal to our Constitution, our form of government, our way of life. We are not loyal to presidents, to individuals. We do not seek to give individuals ultimate power over ourselves. And if these guys really do intend to come down here and pick a fight, which I hope, what is it? I was just showing something, a quote by Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if you can see this. Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by a president. That's Teddy Roosevelt, who was president at the time, said that. Some of you have probably seen that. That's my sentiments exactly. I don't want to see my country break up. I don't want to see Texas secede from the Union. And believe me, there are a lot of other people that feel the way I do. We don't want it to break up. We love our country, but we don't love what's being done to it. I most certainly do not love what's being done to it. This country is being destroyed, and it's being destroyed, obviously, intentionally. And if you like that, you have a serious problem. If this thing goes south, if it goes bad, you're going to have to make a decision. We have an out-of-control group of people controlling our government. It doesn't make me happy to say that. I'm only 50 years old, but never in my life did I ever expect to see the kind of things going on in my country that I've been seeing. People burning our flag, people wanting to censor speech. All this talk about taking our guns away from us. You ever let that happen, we're done. Because the only people that have ever wanted to take guns away from their citizens, whenever they succeeded in doing so, those citizens suffered greatly. And I could go on and on. You know, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, all these characters. They took the people's guns away too. And look at what happened to those people. The 20th century was the bloodiest century in human history. Are you aware that something like 284 million people throughout the 20th century were murdered by their government, by their governments? And that includes the bullshit wars that everybody fought in, okay? But a big chunk of those people came in numbers like 20 million in Russia. 20 million of his fellow people he murdered. Joseph Stalin. Everybody knows what Hitler did to the Jews. It wasn't just Jews, though. It was German people that helped their Jewish neighbors. Millions murdered. Pol Pot. What was that? Cambodia? Something like 50 million of his own people? I'd have to go back and check that, but that's the number that pops into my mind. Every single one of them started by taking away the right of their citizens to own guns. Follow your logic here. There's only one reason why your government would want to disarm you. Because they're up to no good, they're going to pull some kind of shit, and they don't want you shooting at them when they do. This ain't fucking rocket science here. This is basic mathematics. And it has proven itself to be true throughout human history, all the way back to the Roman Empire. You're not taking my ability away from me to defend myself and those I care about. You may think you are. And you may come in here and overwhelm me with numbers and force and superior firepower, and I may wind up leaving with new air vents in my head, okay? But I'm still gonna fight you. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And that's what this is coming down to, whether you people want to realize it or not. Whether you want to own up to it and recognize what's going on in this country. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. We're in deep shit. We got some serious problems headed our way. And I pray to God Almighty that you people wake up and learn how to stand side by side in unity over this thing. Think about what I'm saying. Think about it for real. Something wicked this way comes. And quite frankly, it scares the shit out of me. But the most dangerous animal in the world is the one that you scare the hell out of and back into a corner. So all you imperialist son of a bitches, you think about that. Think about right and wrong and where you stand on that issue. But I'll tell you where I stand on it. Same place that those men, not perfect men I know, but the men who set this whole thing up in this country. We need to get back to the mentality they had. Turn that damn TV off. Cut off those alpha waves that are fucking with your brain chemistry. Turn that sumbitch off. Learn how to read again. Go crack a book. Crack a few books. You'll actually enjoy it. Here's to America. Here's to Texas. Here's to freedom and liberty. here's to all my brothers and sisters out there that believe in right over wrong, light over dark, love over hate. Let's wake up, folks. Let's do something about this. You know things are out of hand. You don't need me to tell you. Things are so far out of hand, it just... I'll be honest with you, some of the stories I read, some of the things I see happening, they almost make me break down and cry like a little baby sometimes at what I see happening. The world that my kids gotta deal with, and grandkids and everything. I actually care about that. Surely you got to see. You got to see. Things are going the way they shouldn't. There's evil running shit. Evil. Whether you believe in God or not, just believe in right and wrong. Believe in some kind of morality, some kind of sense of... I know you got this internal antenna that buzzes when things are not right. We all do. A lot of us choose to ignore it. I've done it too before. But we need to get right. We need to get right. Or everything we know is going to change. And it's going to change in a way that none of us are going to like. Just think about what I'm saying. Don't trust everything you see on that freaking idiot box, that boob tube. Don't trust what those people tell you. Don't trust what that walking hairdo is saying to you. They're reading off a script. I don't have any script in front of me. This is coming from here. Pay attention. This is getting horrific. We're headed toward World War III, most likely with Russia and with China. And there are people behind our governments that are pulling the strings on this. And they know they can't rule the world with superpowers around. Those independent superpowers have to be brought down. They got to be knocked down a few pegs. You got to ask yourself questions when you see things happening that don't make sense. When you see big business being incentivized to move outside the United States, putting people in the United States completely out of work. How in the hell does that make sense?